Hello my friends, good morning from Japan. Today is Wednesday, October the 19th. It's about 7:57 a.m. and I want to start this video thanking my good friend from Italy, Albino Gallopini. He actually sent me this article several months ago. I've been putting off making this video, but today I want to take the time and do it. So let's take a look at this emergency landing. This is a very weird emergency landing. Back in August, this lady died while flying from Hong Kong to London. So here you have the article on the Mail Online. Family of lovely midwife who died suddenly on flight to Britain after 15 years in Hong Kong were so excited about returning and plan to renovate their house. Neighbors reveal as fundraiser to help grieving relative nears £20,000. So let's look at this part right here in red. A few hours into the flight, Mrs. Rhodes, a midwife, was found unresponsive and could not be resuscitated. Her body remained in her seat for 8 hours. Next to her children before the flight finally landed in Frankfurt. So this is really weird, a flight where the person, first time I ever heard that someone died on a flight and remained on its seat for 8 hours. So why did the pilot take 8 hours to land the plane? So this is her. Well, you know, we will not get into details, we don't want to get a strike. But she was a nurse, and you know, nurses are required to get something here on this side or on that side. And you know that was probably what caused her to die. So after landing in Germany and the protocol that followed, Helen remained in Frankfurt while her husband Simon and two young children, Nathan and Emma, had to go on to the UK without her. We're gonna look at some other map, and I want to look at this article here. This is from this website, Christian Flat Earth Ministry, The Plain Truth About the Flat Earth, New Emergency Landing on a Flat Earth. This is a very interesting article I do want to read, and then we're going to look at the maps. Here is from that Christian website, London, Frankfurt, Hong Kong. This is the flight route according to the Mercator's projection. So you see how many options, according to the Mercator's projection, the pilot had before landing in Frankfurt, just an hour shy from London, which makes no sense. He could have flown all the way to London. If the person remained here for 8 hours, he could have just flown, but he did not for some reason, which this article explores, and we're going to read. Thank you, Richard, for making this amazing article here, writing this article. So there was reported on 7th August 2022 of a flight from Hong Kong to London where a lady died. This was a few hours into the flight. The pilot decided they would fly on to Frankfurt, Germany. So the original article I just read on the Mail, Daily Mail. So the mother, Miss Rhodes, was flying with her husband and two children. Naturally, the children had to sit next to their dead mother. She remained in her seat for 8 more hours. This is horrible, of course, and people are asking why the plane didn't land sooner. Herein lies two cover-ups. The first one is, why did this young woman die suddenly at an early age? The chances are that she died as a result of that. Being a nurse, you can be sure that she was given. The second reason is why the pilot decided to fly on to Germany and land in some other country. No one would be told this, but the reason is, my belief, that they were flying over Russia. As you know, the West is at war with Russia, even though many countries are fighting in a proxy war. Now, the only thing that makes sense is that international flights are allowed to fly over Russia, but we are not told that. The reason is passengers and the public would question it. Why you fly over Russia? And on a globe map, we don't have to. Of course, we don't live on a globe. So in order to keep up the lie, the whole world, including Russia, would allow passenger flights to go over it, while the passengers are led to believe that they are flying over some other country, as shown on their seat monitors. So I'm going to include some pictures here of flights where people think they are flying over a globe, when in fact they're flying over a flat earth. You know, the back seat screen right in front of you that sometimes shows you like flying on the globe. And in fact, people see land, you know, looking out of the window, they see land, but on the screen in front of them, it shows that they are flying over the Pacific Ocean. Alright, so let's continue here. People would ask why we are flying over a country that we are at war with. They would also ask why fly over Russia when it would be out of the way. Flying over a country is one thing when you are supposed to be at war with it. It would take a lot of explanation. But if they did land, there would have to be more lies and cover-ups. To have an emergency land in Russia, the Russians would take care of the corpse, the passengers, and get the plane in the air again. The passengers would see that Russia is not the horrible monster that the media makes it out to be. Or how can they put a twist on a good deed like this? If there was not a war with Russia, yes, the plane would most probably land and continue on again. Some BS would have been told to the passengers. They, not thinking through, you would have believed it. This is the case with other emergency lanes like one from Thailand, or it might have been Taiwan to California, where an emergency stop was made in Alaska. If you look at a picture of the flat Earth, you see that a straight line would go over Russia. So I'm going to show this here. I have the maps. If you doubt that Russia would allow international flights to go over the country in a time of war, think again. Since the war started with Ukraine, Russia has still provided oil and gas to Europe, but it's EU that has put restrictions on Russia. In short, European countries are cutting their nose to spite their face. Russia has allowed the Ukrainian grain to leave port, but it was the Ukrainian government that prevented it, as they had mined the waters and prevented the grain from being shipped out, until now. There are also a lot of other trade carried on, but the EU would not allow it. Alright, very good article. This is the end. Though Russia and the West are at odds with each other, Russia is still engaged in conspiracies. Think of the space program. Russia could have said that the Earth is flat, and that all this coverage of space flights, the International Space Station, is all a hoax. However, they are still playing along with the narrative. After all, it would look pretty embarrassing to come out now and say that they have been lying since the Sputnik satellite went up in 1957. So the game is still played, where two opposing parties are on the same side. However, my personal belief and from research I've done, that Russia is in the right in this war. But that is another issue and would take a book to explain it all. So I'll leave it at that. So very good article, and let's look at the maps now. Let's first start with the Mercator's projection here. So this is Google Mercator projection. You see the flight. The pilot would have had all these options for landing before arriving in Germany, which is just about an hour from London. Now let's look at this on the globe. Here you see again, according to Google Maps, the flight route, according to Google Maps, all these options that they would have had if they were flying over a globe. Now this is a great circle map. It does show the flights going over Russia, which, it's like, well, this flight was really flying over Russia. Now, before looking at the flat Earth map, this is the flight route according to the company that does this route, flight CX251. So this is, I'm going to play the playback in a few minutes. So let's go to the flat earth map. So here we have the flat earth map, and this is the flight path of this flight and this emergency. So eventually they took off from Hong Kong. They flew around 4 hours because the flight time is around 12 hours. So they flew around 4 hours, and then they noticed the lady was not breathing. They were probably around this region right here, about to enter Russian airspace. They could not land in Moscow, of course, because then they would have to justify why they were landing in Moscow. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna try to find here, I think I saved the web page where they show companies that are avoiding Russian airspace, and Pacific is one of them. Just for the public, of course, for the people, but they were probably in fact flying over Russian airspace. So they could not have landed here. They had to wait until they left Russian airspace, and they made a stop in Frankfurt, Germany, just about an hour shy from London. Which, you know, if they, on the globe, if they had waited for 8 hours, they could have just gone for the next hour and landed in London. But of course, they were flying over a flat earth. Great Circle Route does show the same route, but of course we don't live on a globe. There's no adjusting for curvature. Every few miles you have to adjust the curvature, bring the nose down of the airplane. So this is another problem for the globe, having to prove at the same time the earth is spinning and the airplane is flying. So every time the plane is flying, the city is moving. London is going east while the plane is flying west. So it makes no sense on the globe, of course. Only on the flat earth does this flight make sense. Here we have the playback from this flight, Hong Kong to London. So let's play this here and talk about. We see that the flight route, according to Flight Radar 24, the plane left Hong Kong and up all sorts of routes, crazy routes, going Kazakhstan and then down. A really weird flight route according to the globe. It just makes no sense, and we know this is just a virtual, not real. Only when emergency landings happen is that when we know for sure where these planes are. As long as nothing happened, they can display anything on these monitors on their websites. For as long as nothing happens to the flight, during the flight, they can just show anything, you know.
Sure, you watched animation. Sure, you watched animation. Sure, you watched animation.
Very similar to the other flights from Chicago to Doha. We see that the flight route, you see that's 1,000. We took a measurement tool in Google Earth. The distance between the flight route and Moscow, it's about 1,000 miles, 1,600 kilometers. So they want us to believe that this plane, there was an emergency, same thing, the boy died, and they flew another extra 2 hours or 2.5 hours to get to Moscow, even though they were flying countries like Austria, you know, that they offer better hospitals. But, you know, it's only when emergency landings happen that we know for sure where the planes are. Otherwise, we don't have any idea. They just, whatever they display on the monitors, either the computer monitors on their websites or in front of you while you're flying, it doesn't mean a thing. It's just a movie, it's just an animation. So this is another emergency landing that brings a lot of questions into the shape of the Earth. And this one is specifically brings more light to this whole conspiracy that the war is just like for the sheeple. They are not really at war. The players in power, they know Russians and Europeans, they are playing on the same team, you know, just to make us believe there is a war going on. And yeah, many innocent people die. They don't care about killing a few hundreds or thousands of innocent people just to advance their agenda. But there are two things being hidden here: the shape of the Earth and a fake war. You know, unfortunately, the press, the media, they blind the people. And, you know, someone posted a comment on one of my videos saying that it's going to be very hard, probably impossible for us to really flip this whole shape of the earth thing, and that flat earth starts to be taught in schools, because the whole education system, the Bible says clearly that the whole world is under the influence of the evil one. So that includes also the education system, the universities, the departments of defense. Everything is under the influence of the evil one. So the liar will continue in lying, and he will cover up the lies with more lies. So that's, you know, so it's going to be very difficult, perhaps impossible, until the dome is broken from the top down and the Lord comes down here and cleans up this place and kick all these evil people and the evil one down to hell. So this is a short video for today, guys. Thanks again. I hope you are enjoying the TikToks. Some of them are really inspiring. It's a different platform. Some of the people there don't even have YouTube channels. It's just a different platform, a different way of making videos. They offer some editing capabilities which YouTube does not. So people seem to like it. So you guys take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. You think you're flying over a ball-shaped Earth, but then...
Okay, so we've just had an announcement. We've got an emergency landing. We don't know what's going on, but we've told we've got an emergency landing.
You realize that an emergency landing changes your perception.
Terrified passengers snapped these pictures as the plane was forced to make an emergency landing.
Of the world we live in.
Breaking news, here is a live look at the San Francisco airport where a flight from Hawaii was forced to land because of a medical emergency involving a flight attendant.
Emergency landings prove we don't live on a spinning water ball Earth.
Flight AI-191 Mumbai to Newark has been diverted to Kazakhstan.
Doha to Chicago, emergency landing Moscow only makes sense on the flat Earth map. Hawaii to New York, emergency landing Seattle only makes sense on the flat Earth map. Bogota to Frankfurt, emergency landing Manchester, UK only makes sense on the flat Earth map. Abyssal plain all over the ocean floors. The sounds of thunder under the dome. The boundaries of Antarctica. The salt flats in Bolivia and the region of the plains in the Orinoco Basin are all irrefutable proofs that
The Earth is flat.